The massive viewing screen in the Nexus Prime mapping station showed thousands of star systems spread across the galaxy like glowing dots. Senior cartographer HFY moved his three-fingered hand over the control panel, zooming in on different sectors. His purple skin gleamed under the bright lights as he studied the latest survey data. Something was wrong with the maps. Again, .cex, single quote. HA had been creating star charts for over 60 years. He knew every major trade route, every inhabited world, every dangerous nebula that ships needed to avoid. But there was one area that never seemed to get updated properly. A large blank space on the outer rim of the galaxy that simply said, Uncharted Territory, in small gray letters. The problem was that this area was not actually uncharted. Survey ships had been through those regions many times. They had found planets, space stations, even entire civilizations. But somehow, none of that information ever made it onto the official maps. Senior cartographer? Called a voice from across. The room, Veltar, a young Alterian like HFY, approached the workstation. His skin was a lighter shade of purple, marking him as junior staff. I have been reviewing the data from the outer rim sectors. There appears to be a significant amount of activity in the regions marked as empty space. HFY's body tensed. He had hoped no one would notice. What kind of activity? Well, sir, there are shipping manifests listing deliveries to over 300 worlds in that area. Trade agreements with dozens of species. Even diplomatic communications. Veltar pulled up a datapad. According to these records, there is an entire civilization out there. They call themselves humans. The word hung in the air like a dangerous chemical. HFY looked around quickly to make sure no one else had heard. The mapping station was busy with dozens of workers, but they all seemed focused on their own tasks. You should not be looking at those files, HFY said quietly. But sir, if there are inhabited worlds, should we not update the maps? The Navigation Guild has been complaining about ships going missing in that region. Maybe if we showed the actual locations of planets and space stations, it would help with safety. HFY wanted to explain, but he could not. The truth was that he had tried to update those maps many times over the years. Each time, his supervisor had rejected the changes. No explanation. No discussion. Just a simple message. Outer Rim territories to remain uncharted by order of the Galactic Council. The Outer Rim is dangerous, HFY said instead. There are many hazards that make mapping difficult. But sir, these records show regular trade routes. If merchants can travel there safely, surely our survey ships can map the area properly. Before HFY could respond, Director Korthvul approached their station. The tall, gray-skinned administrator looked annoyed. Is there a problem here? Junior cartographer Veltar has questions about the Outer Rim territories, HFY explained. Korthvul's expression grew cold. The Outer Rim mapping protocols are classified. Veltar, you are to delete any files related to that region from your workstation immediately. But Director, I was only trying to improve the accuracy of our charts. The blank space covers nearly 10% of the galaxy. Surely we can provide better information to travelers. The current maps are sufficient for navigation needs, Korthvul said firmly. You are dismissed for the day. Report to Security Chief Dragman tomorrow morning for a briefing on information security protocols. Veltar's skin darkened with embarrassment. He gathered his datapad and left the station without another word. HFY watched him go, feeling sorry for the young cartographer. He had asked the same questions when he was younger. The answers had never satisfied him either. After Veltar left, Korthvul moved closer to HFY's workstation. I trust this will not become a recurring issue? No, Director. I will make sure the junior staff understands the protocols. Good. The Council has worked very hard to maintain stability in our galactic community. We cannot allow curiosity to undermine important security measures. As Korthvul walked away, HFY wondered what kind of security required keeping an entire civilization off the star charts. But he had learned long ago not to ask too many questions about the humans. Meanwhile, in the Outer Rim territories that did not officially exist, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel New Horizon, through the main view screen, he could see the blue and green marble of Earth hanging in space. It was a beautiful sight, but Jake was troubled by the reports he had been receiving. "Captain, we are getting another strange communication from the trade station at Alpha Centauri," announced his communications officer, Lieutenant Maria Santos. "They say they cannot find our home system on their navigation charts." Jake frowned. This was the third time this month. "What do you mean they cannot find it? We gave them the exact coordinates." "They say their charts show empty space at those coordinates, sir. No planets, no space stations, nothing." "Dr. Lisa Park, the ship's science officer looked up from her workstation. "Captain, I have been tracking similar incidents across human space. Trading partners consistently claim they cannot locate our colonies on their star charts, but they seem to have no trouble finding us when they want to do business." "That does not make sense," Jake said. "How can they trade with us if they do? Not know where we are?" "That is what I am trying to figure out, sir. I've been analyzing communication patterns from the past year. Other species seem to avoid mentioning human colonies by name. Instead, they use phrases like the outer territories or the rim settlements." Jake walked over to the navigation console and pulled up their own star charts. Human space was clearly marked, showing all the colonies, space stations, and trade routes that had been established over the past century. Earth, Mars, Europa, the mining colonies in the asteroid belt, the agricultural worlds of the Centauri system. Everything was there. "Dr. Park, send the message to Earth Command. Tell them, we need to investigate this mapping issue. If our trading partners cannot find us on their charts, it could cause serious problems for commerce and defense." "Yes, sir." "Should I mention the communication patterns I have been tracking?" "Include everything. This is too strange to be a coincidence." As the New Horizon prepared to leave Earth orbit, Jake wondered why other species seemed to have such difficulty with basic stellar geography. Humans had been part of the galactic community for 50 years. They had trade agreements, diplomatic relations, and regular contact with dozens of other civilizations. How could they still be missing from the star charts? Back on Nexus Prime, Veltar sat in his small quarters, staring at the datapad that Director Korthville had ordered him to wipe clean. He had already copied the files to a secure location, knowing that his curiosity would not let him simply forget about the mystery. The more he studied the records, the more convinced he became that something important was being hidden. The humans were not just another species in the Outer Rim. They were actively involved in galactic trade, diplomacy, and even scientific research. Yet they appeared on no official maps, no public databases, no educational materials. It was as if someone was deliberately keeping them invisible. Veltar made a decision that would change everything. He was going to find out why an entire civilization had been erased from the official records of galactic society. Even if it cost him his career, he needed to know the truth about the humans and why they were too dangerous to put on a map. The next morning would bring answers that neither he nor Captain Morrison could have imagined. Veltar waited until the night shift began before returning to his workstation. The mapping center was mostly empty, with only a few technicians monitoring the automated systems. He activated his terminal and began searching through the classified archives. Using access codes that he probably should not have known, the first file he found was labeled Outer Rim Protocols Classification Level 7. Veltar's hands shook as he opened it. Classification Level 7 was reserved for information that could threaten galactic stability. What could be so dangerous about updating star charts? The document contained a series of directives dating back 53 years. The first was signed by Council Speaker Thanalok himself. All mapping personnel are hereby instructed to omit inhabited systems and sectors 7,841 through 9,267 from official navigation charts. This directive is issued under the authority of emergency. Resolution 2847. Emergency Resolution 2847. Veltar had studied galactic history in school. That resolution had been passed during the first contact crisis with a species called humans. But the history book said that crisis had been resolved peacefully through diplomatic negotiations. He scrolled through more files, finding directive after directive. Containment Cartography Initiative, Phase 1. Cultural Sensitivity Protocols for Outer Rim Territories. Navigation Restriction Guidelines for Human Space. Human Space. There it was, written plainly in an official document. The humans had their own territory, their own worlds, their own civilization. But according to these files, they were being deliberately hidden from the rest of the galaxy. Veltar found a folder marked Incident Reports. His curiosity overcame his fear as he opened the first file. It was a report from a galactic navigation guild instructor named Kextan. The human cargo vessel captain ignored all established hyperspace entry protocols and somehow arrived at the destination 3 days ahead of schedule. When asked to explain his navigation method, he said he took a shortcut through the asteroid field. Our computers show that route should have been impossible to navigate safely. The next report was from a medical station, human Dr. Lisa. Park treated the Ceterian plague outbreak using techniques that violate basic medical safety protocols. She approached the virus as if it were a mechanical malfunction rather than a biological agent. Her treatment method worked perfectly, but it contradicts everything we know about xenobiology. Report after report described humans solving problems in ways that made no sense to other species. They ignored safety rules and succeeded. They broke trade regulations and made more profit. They disregarded scientific theories and discovered new facts. Each report was marked with the same conclusion: recommend continued monitoring and containment protocols. Veltar was so focused on reading that he did not notice the security alert flashing on his screen until it was too late. The access to classified files had triggered automatic monitoring systems. Within minutes, Security Chief Drakvin and 2 guards entered the mapping center. Junior Cartographer Veltar, Drakvin said in his deep, rumbling voice. You are under arrest for unauthorized access to classified information. Meanwhile, 3 sectors away, Captain Jake Morrison was meeting with Dr. Alan Cooper in the Earth. Command headquarters on Luna. Dr. Cooper was a historian who specialized in early human contact with alien civilizations. His office was filled with books, data tablets, and holographic displays showing timeline charts. Captain Morrison, your message about the mapping issue is very interesting, Dr. Cooper said, adjusting his glasses. I have been researching similar patterns in other areas of human-alien relations. What kind of patterns? Dr. Cooper activated a holographic display showing trade agreements, diplomatic records, and scientific exchanges. Look at this data. In every formal document, humans are listed as species classification pending or outer rim representatives. We are never referred to by name or given specific territorial designations. Jake studied the display. I assumed that was just bureaucratic. Language. That is what I thought too, until I started comparing our records with what other species publish about galactic civilization. In their educational materials, their news broadcasts, their scientific journals, humans are barely mentioned. When we are discussed, it is always in vague terms. But we have been part of the galactic community for 50 years. We have trade, relationships, diplomatic missions, scientific collaborations. How can they ignore all of that? Dr. Cooper pulled up another display showing communication logs. They are not ignoring us, Captain. They are actively working to minimize our visibility. Look at these message patterns. When alien diplomats communicate with Earth, they use coded language. When they file reports with their governments, they avoid specific details about human activities. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying there is some kind of conspiracy to hide humanity from the galaxy? I'm saying that there appears to be a coordinated effort to keep human activities out of official records. The question is why? What would make dozens of different species agree to essentially pretend we do not exist? Dr. Cooper showed Jake a timeline chart. The pattern started immediately after first contact. Before that, survey ships were mapping human space normally. After the initial diplomatic meetings, all reference to human territories disappeared from public records. What happened during those first contact meetings? That is the strange part. According to our records, the meetings went very well. The aliens were impressed by human technology and culture. They welcomed us into the galactic community. But according to their public records, those meetings barely happened. Jake thought about the reports from his ship. Dr. Cooper, my science officer, has been tracking communication patterns. She says that alien traders seem confused about basic stellar geography when it comes to human space. They can find us when they want to trade, but they act like they do not know where we are. That fits the pattern I have been seeing. It is as if they have two sets of records. One that shows the truth about human activities and another that keeps us invisible from the general galactic population. But why would they do that? What could be the purpose of hiding an entire civilization? Dr. Cooper leaned back in his chair. I have been studying this for years, Captain. The only explanation that makes sense is that they are afraid of us. But not in the way you might think. What do you mean? I have been analyzing the few detailed reports I could find about human activities in galactic space. Every time humans interact with other species, we solve problems in ways that surprise them. We approach challenges differently. We ignore rules that they consider sacred. Jake remembered the navigation reports from his own ship. Human pilots often took routes that alien traffic control said were impossible. But the routes worked, and they were usually faster than the recommended paths. Dr. Cooper, I think we need to investigate this more directly. If there is a conspiracy to hide humanity, we need to know who is behind it and why. I agree, Captain. But where do we start? We cannot exactly ask our alien trading partners why they pretend not to know where we live. Jake smiled grimly. Actually, maybe we can. I am going to request permission to visit the Galactic Council directly. If they want to keep us off their maps, they can explain why to our faces. Captain, that could be seen as an aggressive act. We have never visited the Council headquarters without an invitation. Then maybe it is time we stopped asking permission and started demanding answers. Back on Nexus Prime, Veltar sat in a security holding cell, thinking about what he had discovered. The files he had read painted a picture that disturbed him deeply. The humans were not dangerous enemies. They were not trying to conquer or destroy other civilizations. They were simply different. But that difference seemed to terrify the Galactic Council more than any weapon. Security Chief Drakvin entered the cell. You have caused quite a stir, young cartographer. Do you understand what you have done? I was trying to do my job, Valtar replied. I was trying to make accurate maps. Your job is to follow orders, not to question the wisdom of the Council. The Outer Rim protocols exist for very good reasons. What reasons? What is so dangerous about putting human worlds on a star chart? Drakvin stared at him for a long moment. Perhaps it is time you learned the truth about the humans. But first, you must understand that this knowledge comes with great responsibility. The stability of galactic civilization depends on maintaining the current arrangement. What arrangement? The humans must never know that we are afraid of them. Security Chief Drakvin pulled up a chair and sat across from Veltar in the holding cell. His gray skin looked almost pale under the harsh lights. What I am about to show you is classified at the highest level. If you speak of this to anyone, without authorization, you will spend the rest of your life in prison. Veltar nodded slowly. I understand. Drakvin activated a portable display unit. This is the official report that created the human containment strategy. It was written by our best xenobiologists and behavioral specialists after studying human activities for 10 years. The first document that appeared was titled Behavioral Analysis and Threat Assessment, Homo Sapiens and the Destabilization of Galactic Order. Veltar read the opening paragraph with growing amazement. The species known as humans presents a unique challenge to galactic stability. Unlike previous first contact scenarios, humans do not follow predictable behavioral patterns. Their approach to problem-solving consistently violates established protocols across all fields of study. While they show no aggressive intentions toward other species, their unpredictable nature poses a significant threat to the orderly function of galactic civilization. I do not understand, Veltar said. They are dangerous because they solve problems differently? Keep reading, Drakvin replied. The next section contained detailed case studies. The first was about a human cargo ship captain named Steve Walsh, who had been hired to transport medical supplies to a planet in the Vega system. The normal trade route had been blocked by a massive space storm for over 40 years. The Galactic Navigation Guild had declared the route permanently unsafe. Captain Walsh had looked at the storm data for less than an hour before announcing that he would fly straight through it. When Guild officials tried to stop him, he explained that the storm was not actually random. It followed a pattern, and if you timed your entry correctly, you could ride the current safely through to the other side, the Guild experts had insisted. This was impossible. The storm was chaos itself with no predictable elements. But Walsh had ignored their warnings and made the journey successfully. Not only had he delivered the medical supplies, but he had also mapped a new route that cut travel time to the Vega system by 60%. Within a year, Walsh's route had become the new standard. Centuries of Navigation Guild expertise had been made obsolete by one human who refused to accept that something was impossible. But this is good, Veltar said. He helped people and made travel more efficient. Read the next case, Drakvin instructed. The second case study involved a human scientist named Dr. Betty Ross, who had been called in to help with a plague affecting the Cetarian homeworld. The plague had been spreading for months, and the best medical minds in the galaxy were baffled. It did not respond to any known treatments, and it seemed to adapt to every cure they tried. Dr. Ross had approached the problem completely differently. Instead of treating the plague as a biological agent, she had studied it as if it were a mechanical system. She looked at how it spread, how it changed, and how it interacted with different environments. Then she had designed a solution that was not really a medicine at all. She had created a device that changed the electrical field around infected patients. The plague, which had resisted every biological treatment, simply stopped working when exposed to the specific electrical pattern that Dr. Ross had designed. The Cetarian medical establishment had been horrified. The treatment violated every principle of proper medical practice. But it worked perfectly, and within weeks, the plague was eliminated. She saved lives, Veltar protested. How is that dangerous? The danger is not in what they accomplish, Drakvin explained. The danger is in how they accomplish it. Every time humans solve a problem, they make our experts look foolish. They ignore rules that we consider fundamental laws of nature. The third case study was about a human trader named Bob Kelly, who had revolutionized commerce in the Orion sector. The established trade system required complex negotiations, formal contracts, and approval from multiple regulatory bodies. A simple transaction could take months to complete. Kelly had bypassed the entire system by creating what he called a handshake agreement network. Instead of formal contracts, he built personal relationships with suppliers and customers. Instead of regulatory approval, he used reputation and trust. His methods were completely informal by galactic standards, but they were also incredibly efficient. Within 5 years, Kelly's network had become so successful that it was handling more trade volume than the official system. The Galactic Trade Commission had been forced to adopt many of his methods just to stay competitive. Do you see the pattern? Drakvin asked. In every case, humans solve problems by ignoring the rules that other species consider sacred. They succeed where we fail, and they make it look easy. Veltar was beginning to understand. The other species feel threatened because humans make them look incompetent. It is worse than that. Humans do not just make us look incompetent. They make our entire way of thinking seem obsolete. We have built our civilization on order, predictability, and following established procedures. Humans thrive on chaos, uncertainty, and breaking rules. The display showed more case studies. Human engineers who solved structural problems by ignoring the laws of physics. Human diplomats who ended conflicts by completely disregarding traditional negotiation protocols. Human scientists who made discoveries by questioning theories that had been accepted for thousands of years. The Council realized that if human methods became widely known, it would destabilize everything, Drakvin continued. Other species would start questioning their own systems. Traditional institutions would lose their authority. The careful balance that has maintained galactic peace for millennia would collapse. So you decided to hide them? We decided to contain them. We allow humans to exist and even to trade with us, but we minimize their visibility. We keep their methods from spreading. We prevent other species from learning too much about how humans think. Veltar thought about all the files he had read. The blank space on the maps is not about geography, it is about ideas. Exactly. As long as humans remain isolated in their own territory, their disruptive influence can be managed. But if they were fully integrated into galactic society, their way of thinking would spread like a virus. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison was approaching Nexus Prime in the New Horizon. His crew was nervous about making an uninvited visit to the heart of galactic civilization, but Jake was determined to get answers. "Captain, we are receiving automated warnings from the station," reported Lieutenant Maria Santos. "They are telling us to change course immediately." "What kind of warnings?" "Standard warnings about unauthorized vessels in restricted space." "But sir, there is something strange about the tone." "They do not sound angry or threatening. They sound almost scared." Dr. Lisa Park looked up from her sensor readings. "Captain, I am detecting unusual energy signatures from the station. It looks like they are powering up defensive systems, but they are not targeting us. They seem to be trying to hide from us." Jake frowned. "Hide from us? We are one small ship. They have defensive systems that could destroy us easily. That is what makes it strange, sir. They have the power to force us to leave, but they are not using it. Instead, they keep sending messages asking us to go away voluntarily." "Captain," Santos called out, "we are receiving a priority transmission from the station commander. He is requesting a formal meeting." Jake smiled grimly. "I guess they decided it is easier to talk to us than to keep hiding. Tell them we accept their invitation." As the New Horizon docked with Nexus Prime, Jake wondered what he would find. The evidence suggested that aliens were deliberately hiding human civilization from the galaxy. But why would they go to such lengths? What could make dozens of different species agree to such an elaborate deception? The answers were waiting for him in the council chambers, where Veltar was about to learn the most shocking truth of all. The humans were not being hidden because they were dangerous enemies. They were being hidden because they were too good at solving problems that other species had given up on and that terrified the galaxy more than any weapon ever could. Captain Jake Morrison walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime with 2 alien guards escorting him. The station was enormous, with gleaming walls and advanced technology that made human engineering look primitive. But Jake noticed something strange about the aliens they passed. They all stopped and stared at him with what looked like fear in their eyes. "Captain Morrison," said one of the guards, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms. "Council Speaker Thanolock is waiting for you in the emergency session chamber." "Emergency session?" Jake asked. "I just wanted to ask some questions about mapping protocols." The guard did not answer, but Jake could see tension in his posture. They reached a large circular chamber where dozens of alien representatives sat in tiered seating. At the center was Council Speaker Thanolock, an elderly alien with silver skin and wise eyes that seemed troubled. "Captain Morrison," Thanolock said, his voice carrying across the chamber, "your arrival has forced us to confront a situation we have been avoiding for 50 years. Jake looked around at the assembled representatives. There were species he recognized from trade negotiations, others he had never seen before. All of them watched him with the same expression of nervous anxiety. "I came here because human colonies are missing from your star charts," Jake said. "I want to know why." "That is a more complicated question than you realize," replied Representative Quinter, an insect-like being from the Vegan Trade Consortium. "Perhaps we should explain what humans have done to our civilization. What we have done. We have been peaceful trading partners for 50 years. Quinter activated a holographic display showing trade statistics. In the 5 decades since first contact, human traders have revolutionized commerce in 17 different sectors. You have made our traditional business methods obsolete. The display showed comparison charts. Before human contact, interstellar trade moved slowly through established channels with complex regulations and formal procedures. After humans entered the market, everything changed. Human traders built networks based on personal relationships and simple agreements. They moved goods faster and cheaper than anyone thought possible. We had to adapt our entire trade system to compete with human methods, Quinter continued. Thousands of regulatory officials lost their jobs. Traditional trading houses went out of business. The economic disruption was massive. But the new system works better, Jake pointed out. Trade is more efficient now. Goods are cheaper. People benefit. That is exactly the problem, said Dr. Haverel, the council's chief xenobiologist. His species had green skin and large eyes that seemed to see everything. Humans consistently solve problems in ways that make our existing systems look foolish. Dr. Haverel brought up another display showing scientific discoveries. Human scientists have made breakthrough discoveries in 43 different fields by ignoring established theories. You question fundamental principles that we have accepted for thousands of years. Jake remembered Dr. Betty Ross and her unconventional cure for the Ceterian plague. Questioning old ideas is how science progresses. But your questions threaten the foundation of our knowledge, Dr. Haverel explained. When human scientists prove that our basic assumptions are wrong, it undermines the authority of our educational institutions. Students begin to doubt their teachers. Researchers abandon proven methods to try human approaches. Another representative, a being with crystalline features, spoke up. The disruption extends beyond science and trade. Human problem-solving methods are spreading to other areas of galactic society. The crystal being showed examples of humans working in various fields. Human engineers who built structures that should have collapsed but somehow remained stable. Human doctors who cured diseases using methods that violated medical ethics but saved lives anyway. Human negotiators who ended conflicts by completely ignoring diplomatic protocol. In every case, humans succeed where we fail, the crystal being continued. But your success makes our expertise worthless. Why should people follow established procedures when humans achieve better results by breaking all the rules? Jake was beginning to understand the scope of the problem. You are not afraid that we will attack you. You are afraid that we will make you irrelevant. Precisely, said Thanoloch. The Galactic Council has spent millennia building a stable civilization based on order, tradition, and respect for established authority. Human thinking threatens all of that. Representative Morcax, a heavily armored being from a warrior culture, leaned forward. My people have studied human military tactics. You do not fight like any species we have encountered. You ignore the accepted rules of warfare and somehow achieve victory through methods that should not work. We have never attacked any member of the Galactic Council, Jake protested. No, but your defensive strategies are so effective that they make our military doctrines obsolete. Other species are beginning to adopt human tactics. Traditional military academies are losing students to human-trained instructors. Jake looked around the chamber, finally understanding the fear he saw in every alien face. You have built your entire civilization on the idea that there is a right way to do things. A proper way, a traditional way. And then humans came along and proved that sometimes the wrong way works better. The human approach to problem-solving is chaotic, Dr. Haverel said. You thrive on uncertainty and contradiction. You see rules as suggestions rather than laws. This makes you unpredictable in ways that terrify organized societies. Thanoloch stood and walked to the center of the chamber. We have studied human psychology extensively, Captain Morrison. Your species possesses what we call adaptive intelligence. You can change your thinking patterns based on circumstances. Most species, including all of us in this chamber, have fixed thinking patterns. We approach problems the same way our ancestors did. Fixed thinking gives us stability, added another representative. We know what to expect from each other. We can predict how different species will react in various situations. This predictability is what makes galactic civilization possible. But humans are unpredictable, Thanolok continued. We cannot anticipate how you will respond to challenges. We cannot rely on you to follow established procedures. This unpredictability is both your greatest strength and our greatest fear. Jake thought about his own crew, Dr. Lisa Park often. Ignored standard scientific protocols to get better results. Lieutenant Maria Santos had developed communication techniques that violated regulations but improved efficiency. Even Jake himself preferred to trust his instincts rather than follow military doctrine. So you decided to hide us, Jake said. We decided to limit your influence, Thanolok corrected. We allow trade and limited contact, but we prevent widespread knowledge of human methods. We keep your territories off public maps so other species cannot easily find you. We discourage detailed reporting about human activities. This is why our trading partners seem confused about where we live, Jake realized. They know how to find us for business, but they are not supposed to admit it publicly. Exactly. We have created a system where humans can exist and even prosper, but your disruptive influence is contained to specific areas. Representative Quinter brought up more statistics. The strategy has been partially successful. Human methods have spread to some sectors, but most of galactic society continues to function according to traditional principles. But the system is becoming unstable, Dr. Haverl admitted. Young people from various species are seeking out human territories to learn your methods. Information about human achievements leaks into public databases despite our efforts. The containment is failing. Jake felt a mix of pride and sadness. Humans had been excluded from galactic society not because they were inferior, but because they were too good at challenging assumptions. What happens now? Are you going to keep us isolated forever? That is what we are here to decide, Thanolok said. Your presence has forced us to confront the fact that our current approach is not sustainable. We need a new solution, and perhaps that solution requires thinking like humans. The chamber fell silent as every representative considered the implications. For the first time in galactic history, they might need to embrace chaos in order to maintain order. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the center of the council chamber, looking at the faces of representatives from dozens of species. The fear in their eyes was clear, but he also saw something else. Curiosity. They were afraid of human unpredictability, but they were also fascinated by it. Council Speaker Thanolok, Jake said, I think you have been approaching this problem in exactly the way that scares you about humans. The chamber stirred with confused murmurs. Thanolok raised a hand for silence. What do you mean, Captain? You have spent 50 years trying to control and contain something that cannot be controlled. You have created a complex system to manage human influence, but the system is failing because it fights against the very nature of the problem. Jake walked closer to the center podium. A human approach would be much simpler. Instead of hiding from the chaos, you work with it. Representative Quinter leaned forward. How can we work with something that threatens our fundamental way of life? By accepting that change is not always bad, Jake replied. Yes, human methods have disrupted your traditional systems. But have those disruptions caused harm, or have they made things better? Dr. Haverl consulted his data tablet. Trade is more efficient. Scientific research progresses faster. Conflicts are resolved more quickly. By objective measures, human influence has improved many aspects of galactic civilization. But at the cost of stability, argued the crystal being. Our institutions lose authority when their traditional methods are proven inferior, Jake smiled. Then maybe your institutions need to learn to adapt instead of trying to preserve old methods that do not work as well. A new voice spoke from the upper tiers of the chamber. It was Veltar, the young cartographer who had been brought to observe the proceedings. Captain Morrison is correct. We have been solving the wrong problem. Security Chief Drakvin looked alarmed. Veltar, you are not authorized to speak in council session. Let him speak, Thanolok said. His investigation started this crisis. Perhaps he has insights we need. Veltar stood nervously. The real problem is not that humans are disruptive. The real problem is that we are afraid of disruption. We have built our civilization to resist change, but change is necessary for growth. He activated a small display showing galactic development statistics. For the past 1,000 years, our civilization has been stagnating. Scientific progress was slow. Economic growth was minimal. Social problems persisted for generations without solutions. The display changed to show recent data. In the 50 years since human contact, we have seen more advancement than in the previous 500 years. Not just in areas where humans are directly involved, but throughout galactic society. Because human methods are spreading despite our containment efforts, Dr. Haverhill realized, other species are learning to think more adaptively. Exactly, Veltar continued. The young people of many species are questioning traditional methods and looking for better solutions. They are becoming more like humans in their approach to problems. Representative Morkex, the warrior, spoke up. My own military academies report that new cadets prefer flexible tactics over rigid doctrine. They say traditional methods are too predictable and easily countered. Jake saw an opportunity. What if instead of fighting this change you embraced it? What if you officially recognized that different approaches to problem solving can coexist? How would that work? Asked Thanalok. You could create what humans might call an innovation zone policy. Mark human space and other areas of rapid change on your maps, but with special designations. Let other species choose their level of interaction. Dr. Havra looked intrigued. Regions where adaptive methods are encouraged versus regions where traditional approaches are maintained? Something like that, Jake agreed. Species that value stability can avoid the innovation zones. Species that want to experiment with new methods can seek them out. Everyone gets what they need. The crystal being considered this idea. It would require restructuring many of our institutions. But it would be voluntary restructuring, Jake pointed out. No one would be forced to change. But no one would be prevented from changing either. Representative Quinter pulled up trade statistics. This approach might actually increase commerce. Traders could choose routes and methods based on their preferences. Traditional traders could use established channels. Adaptive traders could use human-style networks. The key is transparency, Veltar added. Instead of hiding human methods, we acknowledge them openly. Instead of pretending humans do not exist, we put them on the maps with clear labels about what to expect. Thanalok was quiet for a long moment, considering the proposal. This would be a fundamental change in how we organize galactic society. But it would be a change that grows naturally from what is already happening, Jake said. You cannot stop human influence from spreading. You can only choose whether to manage it openly or continue fighting it in secret. Dr. Haverhill ran calculations on his tablet. The proposal has merit from a xenobiological perspective. Different species have different optimal learning environments. Some thrive on stability, others on change. A multi-zone approach could benefit everyone. The debate continued for hours. Representatives raised concerns about implementation, about monitoring, about potential conflicts between different zones. But gradually a consensus began to emerge. We would need new categories for stellar cartography, Veltar said excitedly. Innovation zones, traditional zones, mixed interaction areas. It would be the most comprehensive mapping project in galactic history. And we would need new diplomatic protocols, added another representative. Agreements between zones, procedures, for species that want to change their classification. Jake listened to the aliens planning this new approach and felt proud of how they were adapting to the challenge. They were thinking like humans, finding creative solutions to complex problems. There is one more thing, Jake said as the discussion continued. Humans should not be the only species in the innovation zones. Other species might develop their own adaptive methods. The zones should be open to any approach that works, not just human approaches. Thanalok nodded. The captain is right. Innovation. Zones should encourage all forms of creative problem solving, not just replicate human methods. The final vote was closer than Jake had expected, but the proposal passed. The Galactic Council would implement a new classification system for stellar territories. Human space would be officially recognized and mapped, but with clear designations, indicating regions of accelerated change and adaptive methodology. 3 months later, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, looking at a star chart that accurately showed human space for the first time in 50 years. Dr. Lisa Park had been appointed as the first human liaison to the Galactic Council, helping to establish protocols for the new zone system. "Captain," Lieutenant Maria Santos reported, "we are receiving a message from Nexus Prime. Junior Cartographer Veltar has been promoted to Senior Innovation Zone Specialist. He says the new maps are almost complete." Jake smiled. The young alien had found his calling in cataloging and organizing the chaos that humans brought to galactic civilization. "Dr. Park sends her regards from the council chambers," Santos continued. "She says the innovation zones are exceeding all expectations. 12 different species have requested reclassification to adaptive methodology status." Jake nodded. The fear that had kept humans hidden was being replaced by curiosity about what other species might accomplish if they were free to break their own rules. "Set course for the Centauri system," Jake ordered. "I want to see how our colonies look on an official galactic star chart." As the New Horizon jumped to hyperspace, Jake reflected on the strange turn of events. Humans had been put on the galactic map not through conquest or diplomacy, but by proving that sometimes the best solution to fear is to stop running away from what scares you. The galaxy was becoming a little more chaotic, but also a little more interesting. And for the first time in centuries, no one knew exactly what would happen next.